go. All right, so we're talking about all three small plains, Chiapas, Mexico, small plains, Ethiopia, Guji. We're very familiar with Gujis because Gujis are fruity bombs.
And this 2019 Guatemala from La Colombe.
It is 2022, by the way, so that's really, it's been in our freezer for a very long time. We kind of forgot about it. The Chiapas, man, like when you smell it, I smell a roast. I smell the roast, but like a peanut butter roast. And the roast and peanut butter kind of go together. A lot of medium roasts have that nuttiness. A lot of that comes from roast. You could kind of equate that, I think, with like a vanilla sort of malty in like wines, red wines. If it's, and my parents love that stuff. But like Menage a Trois and stuff like that, it's in oak barrels for a long time. The oakiness will have that roastiness.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's like a pretty fresh, pretty light roast. So. Especially with South American coffees, or in this case, Central American coffee, I think.
It's actually Northern American coffee.
It's Northern American. Fuck, dude, we're cutting that. Dude, I'm an idiot. Anyway, so it's it's a beautiful place, beautiful coffee.
Relative to the others, it's roastier.
It's roastier. It's definitely like the peanutty, but maybe you could get like peanut shell versus the actual nut.
Do you remember what you actually said when you tasted it?
Yeah, I mean, it reminded me of breakfast, and it still does. Like when I smell it, I mean, I'm getting like artificial maple syrup.
Artificial maple syrup.
I'm getting Legos. I'm getting fights.
Wait, you don't? So you eat Lego fights for breakfast?
Lego, fight because Lego my Eggo.
Then there's this one. This was our.
Now this is fucking.
Guji.
I mean,
this is great
like,
Guji.
This is like the smell reminds me of what I imagined the actual passion would be when you're washing your hair in those commercials. Hidden Essence, I think it was.
Hidden Essence.
Where it's like,
the fruity essence? Isn't that
fruity
like a fruity
essence,
one? Yeah.
like berry.
Yeah, this is.
I mean, this is so.
If you're a classic coffee drinker and then you want to see what they're talking about when they say third wave coffees, but you don't want the ones that are like so bright and so strange that you're gonna be weirded out. This is the fruit bomb. This is like. You're gonna get that fruitiness that's super different. They may say like strawberry. I think it's a grape candy.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you're like, oh, this has these weird things like malty weirdness, and you don't even know what that is. This like grape candy, like you're gonna get that. It's really well done. And often like maybe over time, I feel like these like Gujis and stuff like that, they might throughout the year like roasting like tail end. They might not have so much. Sometimes they have more, but a lot of times you'll get those and you'll hope for it. And they probably had it when they cupped it initially. But a year and a half later, when they're actually roasting it in process, it's not coming through. This is coming through. This is a beautiful berryish coffee that is fantastic. I hope it stays. And then we have our Guatemala, which old from 2019. So but it wasn't super dry.
It wasn't dry. I mean, it still tasted
the
really
sweetness
good.
Is there. It really surprising because I don't remember it at all. We literally were like, oh, there's this. I guess I saved it for a reason, but it definitely lasted. By the way, when you freeze your coffees, freeze them for a long time, and then straight out of that, grind them in your grinder while they're still frozen. And actually, they've done a bunch of competitions where they've even used like liquid nitrogen to freeze them. You get better, more similar particle sizes.
And then you'll preserve a lot more of the flavors if you freeze it, and then if you vacuum seal it and freeze it, even more so.
Yes.
Because any kind of contact with air, there's off-gassing that occurs and the oxidation.
Yeah. But the more you open it up and let the dry air mix with the not dry air, the old air, the new air, that's like if you just constantly are opening it from your freezer, that's going to dry it out and change it much more than just keeping it at room temperature normally. So
right.
That's so if you need to save it for a while.
So really, the old wisdom of refrigerating your coffee was sort of half right. It's really freeze batches of the coffee and only pull out of the freezer when you're going to grind it.
Yes.
Like the less time the better, because you don't want the moisture when it's frozen. The moisture is going to really mess with the coffee too.
Yes. But this is surprisingly good and just classic Central American. It's Guatemala, or like it's got that acidity, and it was roasted really nicely. So it's also got nothing crazy, nothing wild, not like this, right? Ethiopia Guji, super fruity. Is that a natural, by the way?
I was thinking, does it say?
How can you not say it's naturally processed?
I'm gonna argue that it's not a natural. I feel like it might be a fully washed, only because naturals tend to be funkier. more sour. And this was, I mean, the weird thing to me was there was that hoppy, which kind of ties into the dryness, but there's this hoppy note that like made it taste like, you know, all day IPA or, you know, any sort of high citrus beer.
But it also had that berryness.
But also has berries.
It's like
also,
that, yeah.
you know, so
it's like the
not
grape nuts phenomenon. It's like because you heard grape, you like actually kind of taste grape in your head for some reason. But this is actually beyond that. This fruit is undeniably fruity. It's almost like you're, you know, if you made a Kool-Aid with grape candy with like cherries and berries and all that mix that you would get in like in a wild berry mix, like it's all there.
Yeah,
and it's really good. So if you normally let's say like what are the classic like Italian espressos like the ones that like people order Lavazza, something like that, you know? If you like that Lavazza, it's probably going to be really roasted, maybe have like that really dark chocolate, maybe a burnt chocolate, but it might have some of that nuttiness, that almondness. This is like the opposite of that, but it's not overly bright. It's not crazy acidic. Yeah. Like I think one of the ones we tasted before, often if they're really lightly roasted, the Central Americans will just be like lemon, lime. If you do it wrong, vomit. Like it's like too much. Whereas this is like super centered sweet on like not the lime fruit, but more on like the berry fruit. Like
I mean, like the way I look at it is, this goes great with a scone, a little clotted cream. And then this would go great with, you know, this one wouldn't go to breakfast. This, I guess, would be like in between. You know what it reminds me of now? Gatorade. I actually think this reminds me a little bit.
This one?
Guatemala? The Guat.
The Guatemala reminds you of Gatorade?
Oh, yeah. Like if Gatorade were a coffee. Or, you know, some strange amalgamation.
The sweetness comes through with that, yeah, like a lime Gatorade, maybe. If you watered down salty, your lime Gatorade, it's more salty. I would say it's more salty than that.
Yeah.
But maybe that's part of the Central American thing too. Maybe there's often just a little bit of like saltiness to it. I mean, obviously at this point, you now have like geishas coming through Colombia, Panama, that are totally changing the classic Central American profile of that like lime, maybe a little touch of dry, you know, center standard. So now they're crazy and they're making them natural so that you're getting like all sorts of wild things, and anaerobics are going to add some weird funkiness to it. So that's no longer a thing, but it's still kind of there for this one. This one is like more of a classic, like, you know, if you like your chocolate with just a little hint of lime. Yeah, we're kind of saying all sorts of stuff, but it's also the perception. We agree, crazy fruity, you know, nice and beautiful with a little bit of that. And this is more like cereal, more like Reese's Pieces with a little bit of lime too or something. But I keep saying lime. I'm gonna try to, for next time, I'll try to come up with a different.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? We gotta like go out there and taste more foods and eat more things.
Yeah, we need it. I'm gonna play with the different limes and oranges and stuff like that to differentiate better for you in the future. Yeah, but this is just espresso, where we taste espresso for you, so you can order it later if you want.
Yeah, thanks for letting us have fun. Because I'm Rob,
and that's it.
Cheers.
Cheers.